Lisir wangi sliramu tumaking sirno ojo tangi kon mukulin.
In DreadOut, you take control of a young girl named Linda Melinda, who's on their way to a vacation trip with her classmates and teacher Miss Siska, but is stopped by a broken bridge, which forces them to go on foot. They discover an abandoned town, and not long after, things soon turns into a nightmare. DreadOut's story is separated into two acts. The first act is set in a single location, which is the dilapidated school. But before going inside of it, you'll first have a long walk in the foggy streets of the abandoned town, which gives off a very Silent Hill 2 vibes. The school building from the first act is like a dark maze. Everything just looks the same with little to no landmarks to know where you are, and there isn't any map that you can pick up, which makes the exploration more difficult. Thankfully though, the second act of the game is a lot more direct and is set in multiple locations. There's also another act called Zero, which serves as the game's tutorial and was the game's demo, but with some minor changes. It doesn't really have a connection to the story other than it's supposed to be Linda's dream in the intro. It could be skipped and it wouldn't really impact your experience. In this dark ghost town, your only means of defense is your smartphone. Linda's smartphone can be used to fight ghosts and help her solve some cryptic puzzles. Whenever something's nearby, a vignette will appear in the corner of the screen. A blue vignette is for an item or a possible puzzle, and red's for when an enemy is nearby. My issue with this is that there already seems to be a small vignette on the screen. I don't know if I'm the only one who's seeing it, but it is distracting. Most of the time, I have no idea if I'm actually sensing a ghost or just seeing the filter. Now, there is a lot of ghosts in DreadOut. Some might look like a simple white lady and some are just completely bizarre. Most of them are based on Indonesian folklore. Some of the ghosts can only be seen on Linda's camera, and some are just completely invisible. You'll only be able to hear them by snapping a picture when you're close enough, and you'll know if you're close when a small glitch appears on the smartphone screen. Once they're defeated, they'll be added into Linda's journal, which is called the Ghostpedia, in which you can read some of their backstories. The second act actually offers some more gameplay mechanics and a different weapon to use, which gives a bit of a variety, even if some of those additions are only seen for a short time. While some of the ghosts have some great designs, the fights themselves never really struck me with fear. I find exploration a lot scarier than the fights. I don't know why, but I just don't find the ghosts scary. The only fight where I actually panicked was the second sister boss fight, because it was very different from the other ghosts that I've encountered so far. Whenever you've taken damage, it'll take a few seconds for Linda to get back up, so it gives the enemy a bit of time to catch up to you, and when they do, they'll attack you instantly, which could cause you to go back down again and get stun locked. And when you die, you'll be sent to Limbo, a very dark and empty place. The only way to leave this place is by going to the bright light. The more you die, the longer the path to the light will be. But this can be turned off in the settings if you want, and for some reason, the game would also give some very weird advice. There's a lot of scenes in the game where it would purposely fool the player, and not in a good way. Like this boss fight, where you've recently gotten a hold of a new weapon, and it seems like the perfect way to show how powerful it really is. But then, whenever I try to attack, I just end up in a death loop. Turns out, the game actually wanted me to not do anything, and just accept that. There's a lot of boss fights like these, where even if you try, it wouldn't even matter, because for some reason, dying is the only way to progress the story. What's worse is that the final boss is literally like this. The game would make you guess which one is a scripted death or which one is where you're supposed to fight for your life. And the puzzles are just ugh. Some require pixel perfect precision to be able to solve it, and sometimes it's never really clear what you're supposed to do. There's no hint, no foreshadowing, it just expects you to inspect every single corner of the map and your keyboard. DreadOut's visual is, well, rough to say the least. There's a lot of popping, invisible walls, stiff animations, and PS2 looking character models. But those doesn't really ruin the experience. The real problem is the inconsistent frame rate and some small glitches. Whenever you're exploring and get near a door, or just walking in the street, the camera and Linda would automatically flip their direction, taking the control out of the player. And while this is happening, the game would also drop frames considerably, and it even has some achievement bugs that would prevent you to unlock them. Now at first, I thought the glitches were probably just a problem with my PC, until I found out that I wasn't the only one who encountered it. These glitches are mostly seen in Act 1, but it also sometimes happens in Act 2. In the end, DreadOut is kind of a mixed bag. While it may not be that unique, it certainly is a refreshing experience, and will please anyone looking for a foreboding Asian horror game. But for the more experienced gamers, the number of problems, unpolished gameplay, and an incredibly short campaign will definitely detract from the experience. However, if you could get past all of its issues, DreadOut is a solid game.